Can you see record by that, right?
हाँस उठिरहेछ मलाई त
Okay.
मलाई किन हाँस उठिरहेछ कि एक्टिङ गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि त्यो काम डाउन गर्नुपर्ने जस्तो क्या
No, I think the first 1 minute is always awkward, like जोसँग भए पनि हैन. But it gets better, especially like we go with the flow, so it's gonna be all fun. Also, we just reached 500 subscribers in my channel, so that's.
Yay.
I know. Are you subscribed to my channel? That's a big question.
I think I'm not only YouTube चलाउँदिन के.
If you're not, I'm not gonna post this video. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So excited that you guys are here. In the past, I had computer science student or engineering student, someone from medical field. And a lot of you guys requested me to bring someone from biology and accounting fields. So I have not gotten yet to the point where accounting people are ready to interview, but I finally have someone from biology who is really excited to interview and answer your questions. So please put your hands together for Bibhu Simkhada. So Bibhu, why don't you give us an intro for the audience?
Sure. My name is Bibhu Simkhada from Kathmandu, Nepal. Well, I did up until my +2 in Kathmandu. And after that, I came to the University of Mississippi for my undergrad, where I got my BS in biological sciences. And I graduated last May, and now I'm first-year PhD student at Clemson University.
Yay! Yeah, thanks for the great intro. And I know Bibhu because we went to the same school. He also went to University of Mississippi, and he was 1 year junior. So that's how I came to know him, and he was always super helpful whenever I had some questions. He always so that's how I knew him. So Bibhu, you said you did your bachelor's in University of Mississippi, right? So how long have you been in the United States?
A little over 4.5 years now.
Yeah.
4 years of undergrad and like 7-8 months into PhD program now. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So how has that been so far? Do you like the experience of being in the United States?
Oh yeah, it's kind of a mixed feeling. It has its perks, and it also has some of the, I would not say negative, but not so good aspects of being far from home just to seek education, to get educated in something you like doing, So all in all, it's a good experience. I had a fun time at Ole Miss, and you know that. but yeah, it's kind of a mixed feeling, I would say.
No, yeah. For sure. So let's kind of go back to the point where you said, you did your +2, right? So you graduated your SLC, you finished your high school, your schooling, and then you decide you wanted to do science. Did you do biology, or did you do maths, or did you have like biology plus extra maths? Like, what was that like for you? The +2, what field were you in?
So that's before we get there, actually, maybe it's better to bring up this story. Like ever since I was very small, I have always wanted to be a doctor. And that was mostly because like I grew up around my cousins who were at the time in medical school, or, my uncles who were doctors. So I was surrounded by a lot of doctors, and without bragging, I was also good at studying. So I thought it would be a good profession, like, career choice for me. And so up until +2, I was determined to be a doctor. And that's how my career path was shaped also. But when I was in 12th grade, I think my brother came to the United States for his bachelor's in engineering. And then he would tell us, or, me and my family, my cousins, about the education system in the United States, how it's different from Nepal, all that stuff. And that's when I decided maybe I don't want to be a doctor. But I was still debating what I wanted to be. That is why I chose general biology for my undergrad, so that I would have a better holistic idea of what I wanted to do with a career. And also in undergrad, I took a lot of mixed classes so as I could get better idea of all the different aspects of biology, and then I could decide on what I wanted to do. So yeah. And to answer your question, I was a biology major, or I don't know if it's a major, but bio group, as they would say in Nepal, +2, right? As a bio group, I also took extra math.
So you were in, doing your biology in 11, 12, right? And then towards the end of 12, like what was your thought process? Like, did you always wanted to come to United States? Because like you said, your brother had gone to United States, like he is right now here. So was that already like set, your parents would probably be like, your brother's already there, you should go there too? Or was that something that came after you explored a few options in Nepal, like doing MBBS or appearing for the entrance exam? Like, what was that like, if you could?
Yeah, I did not prepare for the MBBS entrance, but I did give the test just to see where I stand. So I think it was like 3 or 4 months after I gave my +2 exam. I was prepping for SATs and TOEFL at the time, but I was like, maybe I'll just, take the test, see what it's like, just in case as a second option. If the United States application didn't work out for me, that was like a backup. I was like, I didn't study for 3 months. I got a 72, 74, whatever. If I studied, maybe I could get into the scholarship and, take one more gap here and then like go into medical in Nepal itself, because there is not a lot of things in terms of career choices, good career choices when it comes to like science in general. You can do either engineering or medicine. Those two are the only good options in Nepal, right? So yeah, that was my backup, but luckily it worked out for me, the United States, and here we are.
Right. So basically, coming to United States was your first choice, and if that didn't work out, you were going to be a doctor in Nepal, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't know now.
No, you're right. Actually, it's when you take biology, I think the only like option. I mean, there are a lot of other options like biomed engineering or microbiology.
I do have a few friends who've got into veterinary sciences or agriculture.
Right.
Yes.
But I feel like, I don't know, like I have not been to Nepal in 4 years, and I don't know what the scope of those jobs is like right now in Nepal. Maybe it's worth, doing that. But for me personally, like I did not want to pursue any of that, because I was like, if doctor is not working out, I'm gonna switch from biology to entirely different subject. But yeah, definitely
that makes sense.
Lot less options like for biology that has a good scope, in Nepal.
True.
If you want to stay in Nepal. Okay, anyway, so okay, you got the so you're prepping for SAT and TOEFL. So tell us how that experience was like. And if you're comfortable sharing, like what was the range, of your score, and if that impacts,
sure.
and what was your GPA, not GPA, if you're comfortable sharing, or just the range, anything that would help the audience kind of have a better idea of what your stats look like.
Yeah, sure. I think I took the test right away as my class finished. For SAT, I want to say I got something like 1350 out of 1600. And I kind of bombed my math section. I only had like 700 out of 800. So if you're really good in maths, you can like go for 800 out of 800. So that's what I was aiming for, so that I could lose some points off of English section and still be okay with it. But 1350 overall, it's not a bad score. But anything above a 1400 or 1450, I think it helps you land a good scholarship. TOEFL 95 to 100. I'm not sure. I think it was 97 because it was like 4 years ago. I don't quite remember what the exact test scores were.
Yeah.
When it comes to scholarship, it's SATs, your GPA, maybe some extracurriculars. Those are the important factors that come into play when it comes to landing a good scholarship.
Right. And when you were studying, did you guys have the GPA system, or was it a percentage? I don't know.
It was still percentage.
Okay.
For my 11, I think I had like a 82, 83, something like that. And got like 76, 77, something like that in my 12th grade. Aggregate was something like 79, I think. When we convert that thing to GPA, from USEF. I think that's what I used to convert my percentage to GPA. Anything above 75 comes to a 4.0. So that was good. It worked out.
Yeah, you're right. Like some of my friends who got like 72 was also getting a 4, and so I had like 83, so I was also getting a 4. So that's like a really really
Yes.
what's it called, like, so if you have anything above 70, like you should be good to go. But nowadays it's different.
Yes.
Like, I don't think it applies
Yeah.
anymore, so
Yeah, it doesn't apply now. I think they use the grading system, the GPA system. So
okay, so you have a 4 GPA and you had like 13, 15 SAT, which is pretty nice actually. Not pretty nice, it's actually nice. Like I was not able to get that much score, honestly. So 13, I think anything above 1300 is considered good. But like you said, 1400 above is like next level. 1500 plus another level. So what was the thought process like? So did you apply through any third party like consultancy, or did you just apply by yourself? And how many colleges did you apply to? And what was the scholarship that you got? Kind of like if you could tell us more about the application process and how many universities you were accepted to, you applied to, and what made you Ole Miss over all other.
Well, if I'm being honest, the reason I applied to US was I didn't want to stay in Nepal. So that was the foremost reason. Well, obviously there are not a lot of opportunities when it comes to like, just simple education or hands-on learning experiences and research. But also you would see like all these pictures from people who are in the United States, all these good pictures, and you're like, I want to do that. I want to be there. I want to take those pictures. I want to drive nice cars. I want to have a nice life. So that was my thought process behind applying to the United States. Obviously, education was one of the biggest factors. But I did apply from consultancies, mostly not because I wanted to apply from those, but my dad was like, we don't want any mistakes in the application process. It's not about the money. I did apply through consultancies, but I did choose all of the colleges by myself, mostly just doing research on the scale of scholarships they provided to an international undergrad student. So one of the colleges that I applied to was University of Texas at Arlington. They did give me a pretty good scholarship. I think it was in-state was $5,000 in scholarship. I think I had to pay like 8 to 10 grand a year. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, something like that. Another school was University of Louisiana Monroe, very small school. I didn't know at the time, but it was a very small school. I still have some friends who went there, or at least they're still there doing their masters. But it's a very small school, and definitely not as good as Ole Miss. But they also gave me a pretty reasonable scholarship. I don't remember like how much was the scholarship, but I think I would have paid like $7,000-8,000 a year, which is not bad. Still on the higher scale of what an international student can pay. But another school was Troy University. In the previous years before I applied, that school also gave like reasonable or full ride, full tuitions to the students with the same credentials as me. So I was like, this could be a good option. But that didn't work out for me. They only gave me like 50, maybe 60% scholarship. So that was out of the question. And Ole Miss gave me full tuition off. So at that point, it was like a no-brainer for me. And by the time I got my decision from Ole Miss, I already had decisions from the rest of the schools. So like full tuition over like, any amount of scholarships. So yeah, Ole Miss.
No, yeah, for sure. Full tuition wins. And like you mentioned, like I think it's also important if anyone is applying, like he said, kind of like understand what the scholarship was like the previous year from the senior, and try to reach out to them and be like, hey, what did you pay in this academic year? So that you kind of have an idea of what might be expected in your application whenever you apply, like what your financial aid would look like. So that will definitely help a lot. So yeah, so you applied to around like 5, 6 university, and
I
then
applied to 4.
okay, gotcha. Just those that you mentioned, right?
Just 4, yes.
And yeah, you had like a decent scholarship. If you had not gotten an offer from Ole Miss, which one do you think you would have gone to?
Probably UT Arlington, because it's a big school, definitely bigger than any of the other schools, bigger than Ole Miss, but it's in a good location.
Mhm.
And just generally speaking, for anyone who's looking to apply to UTA, it's in a good location. It will be, easier for you to find out good jobs in good companies because it's in like Dallas, Texas, which is a big city, obviously. So
For sure.
there's that, but I don't know how expensive Dallas is. So when it comes to cost of living, it could be maybe kind of hard if you don't get good scholarships. But yeah,
Yeah, but that
maybe I
also,
would have gone to UTA.
yeah, there are also a lot of Nepali population there. So the cost of living
That's true.
might, if you live with Nepali people with similar mindset, you might be able to save some.
True.
So okay, so you decide Ole Miss, you're going to Ole Miss. So did you always have your major as biology, or did anything change when you came here? Did you have a moment where you felt like you wanted to change your major, go to transition to something different, try something else? Or did you always have it in you that I'm going to stick to biology? This is what I want to do in my life. Like, what was that like?
Well, I never had the doubt whether or not I wanted to study biology myself, but a lot of people from Nepal that came to Ole Miss as a biology major or biochemistry majors or biomedical engineering majors, a lot of people changed their majors to some kind of engineering or accounting. And I think there were like 5 or 6 of us that used to be in the same freshman level biology course in first semester, and by second semester it was just me. So I was like, am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
But I was pretty sure that I loved biology. And like I said, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do as a biology major, but I knew that just having a general biology major would give me that opportunity to explore different aspects of biology, different disciplines of biology, and decide on what I wanted to do. So yeah.
I'm gonna cut you off for a second. Like so you said your major was biology sciences. Wait, biological science.
Biological sciences, biology.
Is that
Yeah.
same as biology? Because sorry, it was not
If
100% sure.
generally speaking, they are the same, but when we say biological sciences, it focuses more on cell biology and molecular biology, sort of. But how I structured my coursework was, apart from all the cell and molecular biology required courses, I also took some ecology classes and some marine biology classes, evolution classes. That way it gave me a better holistic idea of what general biology would be like. So yeah.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
generally speaking, those two are interchangeable. Yeah.
But your focus was kind of toward biological sciences.
Yes, that's what my concentration was. And halfway through undergrad, I also started doing research in one of the genetics lab. So after doing that, I focused more on the cell biology and genetics aspect rather than taking other sort of like big biological sciences. Like I want to study birds or I want to study plants. I was like, no, like I want to study cell biology and genetics. So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, how would you say your like undergrad experience was in terms of like just academics, like focusing on how your course were structured, like how much of a pressure did you feel it was, or was that pretty manageable? Or like any tips for someone who is like doing the same major as you are?
Sure. For my first 3 or 4 semester, I had like 16, 17 credit hours for each semester. But some of these freshman level courses, chemistry or biology or any other elective courses, they're like super easy, especially biology and chemistry are half of the stuff is like you've already learned that in your +2 level education. So it's just like a very broad revision of what you studied in your +2. So it's not that hard. I would say try to take as many classes, as many new classes as you can as a freshman year, because that's when your academic is really just starting to begin and you have more free time to explore other aspects of different fields than you would as a junior or a senior when you have taken like more than half of your required classes. So that would be my one suggestion, would be to explore more as a freshman or a sophomore, to really dive into the subject and see if you really like that subject, from just taking an introductory course on that subject, whether or not you like it. My freshman level roommate, who is also from Nepal, was also a biology major when he came here. Like, he went to the first biology class and he was like, I don't want to do this. And he dropped his major right away. Like, as soon as the class ended, he went and changed his major to chemical engineering. So it's important to realize whether or not you like that subject before it's too late for you to change majors or explore other disciplines.
Right, for sure.
Academic wise, it was pretty manageable for me, taking 15 to 17 classes every semester. I was also working 20 hours a week. I did different jobs. I worked as a CDA, which is just a basic desk job. It's the easiest job you could find on campus. You could sit there, just do your homeworks, make sure the residents are safe. Other job that I did was math tutoring. It was a very fun job. I tutored calculus, algebra, trigs, and stats for the math department. It was fun teaching people the things that I knew about math and teaching in a way that they would understand. So I think that was pretty fun time, just watching other people learn. But in terms of my academic, it was nice. I think one thing that I really appreciate about my undergrad was having started as an undergrad researcher in one of the genetics lab. That really shaped as to who I am right now, or how my career paths was shaped. I started in this fruit fly genetics lab. It was a mixture of genetics and neuroscience. So I really got to see how we use animals to understand genetics. And at the time, one of the research that was going on was how the ethanol tolerance is, how it develops in these fruit flies. And I was involved in that. And really, that was the thing that really helped me in choosing Clemson as a grad student. And one of the faculties here that I work for right now, who's my PI, also has a project for the ethanol tolerance in fruit flies. That, so, getting that opportunity to work as an undergrad researcher at Ole Miss under that project really helped me getting into an even better lab under a better scientist with similar projects. So I got kind of lucky in that regard, but again, like, without studying or without exploring your options as a student, you can't really see where your career will take you. So that would also be one of my advice for people who are watching this and trying to see how you grow as a professional or grow as a person as an international student in the United States.
Yeah, so just kind of like start right when you are an undergrad, because the concept in Nepal is we do everything after, let's say we start the college application after +2. We start
right.
we decide if we want to do masters after masters. It's kind of different in the United States, where you have to kind of try to do everything, manage everything. But I think
very true.
It's a good point to transition to another topic that I had in my list here to ask you. So, you were working 20 hours per week. You were a student. You had all the course load, and then you're also researching. As an undergraduate researcher in one of the genetics lab. And doing all this, like, how exactly do you think financially wise, like how independent you felt as a student, and what were the total costs you think that that you had to pay for your entire 4 years of education, and what things kind of like helped you recover from high cost of living slash miscellaneous expenses here in the United States?
Well, my tuition was waived, but there were some other fees that you have to pay as an international student. And also there are some course fees you have to take because you're taking a lab, you're using, chemicals, apparatus, all that stuff. So my annual cost would come to like $4,500 to $5,000 a year for 2 semesters. That would also cover my insurance. So majority of that would go for my insurance, which I think was around like $2,200. As a student worker, you don't earn a lot of money,
Right.
but that's enough to get you through your regular expenses like your rent or your food, your utilities, all that stuff. And if you can find an internship over the summer, or just find some research opportunities as an assistant during the summer, that really helps you with your financials, academic financial expenses. Well, if not, I also know some people who like to work over summer, getting paid under the table. So that's another option, even though I would not recommend that personally, but that could be another option. But there is a certain threshold as to how much you can earn versus you can put in that money as your expenses. If your tuition, for example, is like $12,000, there is no way you can, go to school and then like just work over the summer with internships, whatever, get a on-campus job and be able to pay those expenses. You can't do it.
Yeah.
So really the way is to get as much scholarship as you can and be frugal during your first few years, because it's very easy to spend money as a new as someone who is new to the United States. It's very easy to spend money. If you don't know how the economy works, you will be in a lot of debt. So don't do it. Be frugal, and share the living space with other people for the first few years at least. And don't buy cars if you don't have to, just to post pictures on Instagram. Don't do it. And if you really want to come to the United States, don't come here just because you want to take a picture under a big building and post it on your Instagram. Like really do it if you want to get education, if you love studying, or if you know that like this is something I want to do, go study there. You don't have to like join a PhD program, but after you get your bachelor's, maybe if you're like, I want to work as a software engineer, or I want to work as a research technician, you don't have to have a solid idea of what you want to do, but have a big picture idea of where you want to go after you graduate, because that really shapes as to how you would choose different options as an undergrad. So the key really comes to understanding how the society is structured in the United States, how you should spend money, how you shouldn't spend money, and what you want to do after you graduate, how you want to make money, whether it's research or you want to work, or you want to go back to Nepal, establish your company, or whatever that is. Have a big picture idea at least of what is that you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he brings a really important point that there's just like certain amount of money that can be paid in terms of like all your on-campus job and summer internship combined. But if you really have a high tuition cost, then it's really not possible to pay out of like you whatever you might think like you will be able to earn and pay the college, but that's not kind of possible with the limitation we have in our visa type, where we cannot work more than 20 hours per week as a student. So yeah, it's just the idea is to have
Also, I know a lot of people personally who came to the United States as a student and they transferred to a community college, mostly in Texas, and they would just, work under the table 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and then take like 15, 16 hours in community college. You really can't balance that. You can either study or work. You cannot do both things simultaneously, especially if they are not related. Like working at a gas station doesn't help you with studies. So
yeah, and
if, yeah,
that's something you really should not do, because there are a lot of
yeah,
examples where people work illegally. So number one, you shouldn't do that. But number two, if you
yeah.
decide to do that anyway, you should know that your education will definitely be impacted. You might spend like 10 years and you're still in college, not achieve anything. And then
Yeah.
it takes toll
And
on.
different people have different family backgrounds, they have different pressures on them financially, or morally supporting the family, financially supporting the family, all that stuff, which is understandable. So really, like, ask yourself, because like a lot of my friends who transferred to community college and they're still there almost 5 years now, don't have a degree, don't have an actual technical skill, and they're like, we had money in a short run, but that's not going to help us in the long run. So don't be that person, is what I would recommend to all of the people watching.
Yeah, like let's say if you have kind of like that responsibility back home, you have to make some money. Why can't you make it after 4 years, right? Like
Yes,
you
yes,
make
you can
double,
absolutely do that.
yeah. Just graduate and then work in a related field, and you're going to be making 3x 4x times more than what.
Very true.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's so you might want to think about it. Okay, so moving to, you completed 3 years of your college and you're in your senior year. So what was the thought process? Like, I know I was very like panicked in my senior year because number one, COVID, and then number two, what next? Like, I am in college, I don't have anything to worry about right now, but what next? What after I graduate? Like, what are the options I want to explore? So what did you always wanted to do a PhD? Did you want to work? Did you apply to work? Other industrial companies, I don't know, industry slash academia. Like, what was the thought process like, and why did you choose PhD over other options?
So as soon as I, not as soon as, but shortly after I joined the genetics lab that I was talking about, I knew that I loved research at that point. And also, after working in the genetics lab, like the genetics grew on me. I'll just say that. And I was like, okay, maybe I will start looking into genetics programs. And I did not apply to industry jobs, though I applied to internships programs, in that summer before my grad school, after my undergrad. I did do that, but I did apply to 7 or 8 different schools for PhD programs, all in genetics. I was also intrigued by neuroscience, but I did not have a very strong background in neuroscience. So I was scared to apply for neuroscience. And I would just put it out there for any biology majors, like neuroscience and immunology. Those two are one of the hardest schools to get into, or hardest programs to get into as a biology major. Very competitive. Genetics is also very competitive, but neuroscience is even more competitive than genetics. But I did apply to a lot of genetics programs, but even then I was being focused on like neuroscience aspect of things, like different genetic disorders like autism or schizophrenia, all that stuff, dementia, or any other disorders of the brain. And I was looking into those programs. I applied to some of the very big schools like Duke, WashU, Brandeis, Baylor College of Medicine, Johns Hopkins. Those are like very big schools when it comes to medicine. And needless to say, got rejected from all of them. But I did not initially apply to Clemson. So, I got all of my rejections in the beginning, and I don't have any acceptance yet. I was very panicked during the last semester of my senior year. I did my applications in December before the last semester.
Right.
And, not halfway, a little bit into my last semester, I have like 4 or 5 rejections, no acceptance whatsoever. And at the same time, I'm trying to reach out to different faculties, like, hey, I'm this and I'm doing this kind of research. It lines up with yours. Here's my CV. Here's my experience. Here's my research work. Please take a look. Maybe we could schedule a meeting. I'm reaching out to all the faculties with like all the emails and got a response from none of them. And I applied to NC State to work under Dr. Robert Anholt, and he was the only guy who actually responded to my email. And what he replied was, I am no longer in NC State. You should apply to Clemson. So that is how I applied to Clemson. And I go to Clemson's, applications page. The deadline's already over. And I'm like, what should I do? So I did not do anything. I didn't reply to his email, which was a very dumb move on my end. But 2 days later, he emailed me again saying like, hey, did you apply? I got this new grant. I can afford a new grad student. I like your CV. Let's schedule a meeting and go from there. Like, all right, let's do it. And I applied to Clemson. 2 days later, they invited me for interview over Zoom, of course, and very hectic process. I interviewed at Clemson. I also interviewed at University of Maryland School of Medicine. That was also for a PhD program, but that is also a very good school, medical school. I think it is one of the finest state schools in Maryland. And Maryland, as you know, is a very big state for medicine in general. That's also where Johns Hopkins is. And I had these interviews back to back. I think I had interviews for 3 weeks straight with different faculties, with the admission committee, with other students, or with like current grad students, all that stuff. It was very hectic. I was very drained. And I got acceptance from a few colleges. Clemson was it was like one of the safe schools for me at this point, because I'd already talked with the faculty. He agreed to hire me in his lab. I also got accepted at NC State, even though I got accepted from the admissions committee, but I did not have a faculty to work with. So they asked me to find a faculty. So I was like, the faculty I want to work with is no longer at NC State. Maybe I'll just let it go. So I just ignored that NC State application at that point. And I got waitlisted at the University of Maryland, but they eventually did offer me a position, but that was after I accepted the position here at Clemson. So
it was there a slight, did you feel like kind of slight regret, or not regret, but I was like, oh no, we should have come.
No, not really, because the faculty that I work for here, it's like a joint lab from 2 faculties. They're husband and wife, like a power couple. And the husband, the faculty or the professor that I talked with before I got in here, he used to be at Duke, so obviously he's a very big scientist in the field. And another professor that I have, Trudy McKay, she is also a very renowned scientist in the field of quantitative genetics. That is what we do in the lab. So even though Clemson is a small school, I had that opportunity to work with one of the greatest scientists in the field. So no regrets whatsoever. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, because I feel like what we don't realize in PhD program, it's really important to have a good advisor or a good kind of like your professor. And
Yes.
compared to, let's say, going over a big name school, I think your life is going to be much more easier and nicer if you work under someone, a professor who's nice and
Mm-hmm.
easy
Mm-hmm.
to work with, or who has a lot of expertise in his field. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, so okay, that's kind of great. It's like you messaged someone and then they told you to go to Clemson. So that's why do not hesitate to reach out to people. You know.
Yes. Yes. And before I did that, I had like reached out to like a lot of faculties, like
Yeah.
50, more than 50 faculties, no response. And at one point I was like, I don't want to do this anymore because no one replies. And but
Right.
at the same time, there's that voice in your head that just, tells you to like, what if you
Yeah.
had, emailed them and they would have replied. And that is exactly what happened with me. So do not hesitate to reach out to people. That's how you learn, that's how you grow, and that's how you make connections, really. So do
Yeah.
not hesitate to reach out.
Exactly. Do not always persevere and reach out to people, because sometimes
Yes.
it's just applying does not help these days, especially because the competition is so high. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's a lot of people applying to colleges these days. Uh, so what was your GRE like? What do you think GRE wise, and what made your application strong? And your GPA recommendation letter, or statement of purpose, I think it's called. So what do
Mm-hmm.
you think matters the most when it comes to applying to grad school? Based on
Uh,
acceptance and rejections you faced.
so I did do a lot of research in these things that you talked about, which one is more important, and GRE is not one of them. So it is one of the least important factors when it comes to like getting a good, getting into a good program. Obviously, it helps to strengthen your profile. The only reason that I applied or that I took my GRE test was, just to have that score on hand in case I needed it at any point during my application. Because a lot of the schools, especially after the COVID hit, a lot of the schools, they just dropped that requirement of having to have a GRE, but I still took it just in case. I realistically had 3 months to prepare the summer before my senior year, right? But it just happened so fast. I would say the summer just went by. I was just there chilling with my friends, going to different places, maybe studying a little bit. But realistically, I prepared for 3 weeks before the actual test,
Oh, wow.
which was scheduled in the middle of my fall semester of my senior year. And well, I did study, or not study, but memorize really a lot of words during that summer. Even though I didn't actually practice problems, I would memorize like 10 to 15 words every day. And GRE, it really doesn't test whether or not you know things. It just tests whether or not you know how to take the GRE test. That's why GRE is not important, is why I said that. Math section was kind of tricky, definitely harder than SAT.
Yeah.
Uh, so unlike SATs with GREs, there are like multiple sections. There are 2 math section and 2 verbal section, and depending on how good or bad you do in your first section, so your second set of question will be determined by that. So if you do really bad, second set would be very easy. If you do really good, second set would be very hard. So
Really?
that test really tries to standardize where you fall in that spectrum of knowledge. But if you know the tricks as to how to take a GRE, that doesn't really test your knowledge. It just tests whether or not you know how to take GRE. I think I had a like 319 something.
Wait,
I
that's a
used
really good score. Wait, all the people I've talked to had like, wait, you said with 3 weeks of practice, I can get that much score? I think
maybe
I
you
should,
can.
yeah, because I was thinking of, taking GRE as well, but I have not started studying. So I thought you should at least prepare for 3 months. So I was
You
kind of,
should. You should. You really should.
no, but you
Don't
said three
don't.
weeks was enough. What? Don't just,
I didn't say it
don't
was
change your
enough.
mind.
No, I still studied for 3 months, studying those 10 to 15 words every day. I memorized like
Okay.
by the end of 3 months, I had like 2,000 words memorized, and you can't do that in 3 weeks.
So I should start
So
studying from now if I were to keep my GRE. Really good idea.
yes.
But
And
yeah,
I took 3 weeks to actually practice the problems, is what I said. So
gotcha. So to add to take like the actual test or like the mock.
yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. But that's a really good score. So kudos.
But there are 3 sections. Essay was, I think I got like 4.5, something like that on my essay. But I didn't really use my GRE, so I don't know why I'm even going over the different aspects of GRE. But it's not very important. It's good to have the scores on hand just in case you need it. I used it in 2 schools out of 7 or 8 that I applied to. I used it in 2 schools that I remember. Didn't use it in Clemson, didn't use it in Maryland, didn't use it in NC State. So those are the schools I got accepted to. So what I'm saying is you don't really need GRE.
Oh my, yeah. I think
Uh,
because you applied to some of the reach schools like at John Hopkins, like I think that's the why you needed.
yes. Yes, I think I used it in Hopkins and in Duke. Those two are the schools I used my GRE scores. They didn't need it either, but I already had the score, and they're like, if you feel like your GRE score would make your application better, blah blah blah, just put it in. I was like, okay. So
this was all for PhD though. Was it any
yes,
master's? Just for
no
PhD?
I didn't apply to masters, no. So this was all for PhD. What is really important is your research experience. When it comes to STEM field, having a research background is very important. Having good letters of recommendations is very important. And GPA doesn't really matter. I would not say it doesn't really matter. It does matter to some extent. I have one semester where I had very terrible GPA, and I'm not even comfortable sharing that GPA. It was that bad. I almost lost my scholarship. It was that bad. So it was very bad. But still, here I am. I also got pretty good offers from pretty good schools. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have things to back up your, lack of better, higher tier GPAs, is that have research experiences and letter of recommendation. That is a very strong thing because but this may not apply to our people applying from Nepal, because you can get very good letters of recommendation, just like that. But in the US schools or with US professors, they don't write you good letters if they don't know you as a good student, so. And one professor would, for that reason, trust another professor's words when they say this student is very good. I recommend you to take this student into your lab. So letter of recommendation is a very big player. And I think that's what also supported, my application. My research advisor was very helpful throughout the process. He told me to look into, these different labs that I could work for if I were to go into that school. So he was very helpful throughout the process, guiding me as I went into, filling out this application and sending out these applications into different schools. So yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. There's like the trust one professor has on the other. If they are a student, they're not easily going to give a good recommendation if they don't know you.
Oh yeah, another big thing would be statement of purpose, because that is where you actually write why that is you want to study that field as a grad student. I took like 3 weeks writing my letter, making sure it was the best I could get. I was
Yeah.
getting it, having my friends read it and make corrections and stuff. And I did take very, solid like time to make sure that it was almost perfect, if not perfect. Because that is where you show why that is you want to study and what made you choose that specific major, specific field, specific lab, and what have you done so far to achieving those goals of yours, and what you want to do after you are done with the graduate program. So that is where you can put your heart and soul, and then make it perfect as to why you would be a better candidate in that school or that lab over some of the other candidates. So that is also a very big player in your application.
Yeah, for sure. Don't be lazy to write this.
Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. No.
Have it reviewed by multiple people, because even though you think you might have written a perfect essay, there will always be some issues that will come
Absolutely.
up during the review session with your friends. Yeah, for sure. And so this Clemson University, it offers you the PhD program, right? So everything is paid for, the tuition is paid for, and they also support you financially, right? That's like the benefit of PhD program.
Yes, but there is a catch, at least in this school. There's this very, well, excuse the language, but bullshit fee called graduate assistantship fee.
Okay.
They're like, here, take this money that's for you to be a graduate assistant, but here, like, let us take $1,200 off of that because you're a graduate assistant. So that fee doesn't quite make sense to me. But there are some fees that I have to, pay for the insurance that's not covered by my assistantship,
Right.
or some of the classes that I'm taking require fees, international student fee, and fee for different school student bodies, activity fee, all that stuff. So
Right.
there is a certain amount of fee that I have to pay, but I do get paid decent amount of money for a graduate student,
Right.
and that is more than enough for me to pay for my expenses and those fees. Yes.
Right. And like that's really important, because you're working for like 5 years and you would want to be stable.
True. Yes.
So, and I think colleges know that pretty well. So they pay you the amount that you are able to survive on pretty well.
Yes.
Not lavishly, but you were able to do good,
Right. And also there are two ways you can get paid as a grad student. One's research assistant, the other one is teaching assistant. So for research assistants, you are working for a lab for a professor, and that professor would pay you off of his grant money directly. And he would pay for your fees, he would pay for your stipends. And other one is teaching assistantship. You're being paid by the department. Department pays your fee, department pays your salary, sort of. And when we do that, when you are a teaching assistant, you have to teach certain courses, or grade certain classes, help the professor with the classes, whatever they ask you to do. Mostly you teach labs, but it's like 20 hours of extra work that you have to do as a TA, because you have to do the research no matter what, because you're a grad student, right? So I think if you can, try to get into a RA position, because that saves you 20 hours a week from extra work. But another drawback as an RA would be that you don't get to explore different professors and their work, as to who you want to work for, what do you want to work on. So there is like pros and cons of both of those, but I personally would recommend researching into a lab, what it does, what kind of projects are running, and try to get the RA position in that lab. That saves you some time and effort.
So, okay, I wanted to ask a question. So you're telling that if you do the TA position, you might be able to explore other professor and opportunities. So, if you don't like it, then don't like the research that you're doing, then it would be nicer to explore, right?
Yes.
You don't have
Yes.
to be stuck if you are not liking your research, right? Basically.
Yes.
Okay.
So as a TA, you get to rotate in 3 labs of your choice before, committing into one of those labs. So yeah, it's nice in that regards.
Okay. So yeah, so how is like graduate life going? Overall, just like
Graduate life,
summary, but I don't want to take up a lot of your time.
that's fine. No, graduate life, it's kind of fun. Definitely very different than an undergrad, because as an undergrad, you have a lot of free time. You can, go out with your friends,
Yeah.
get drunk on a Friday night, recover on a Saturday, all that stuff. But, as a grad student, you don't get a lot of that. You are in your lab pretty much like all day on the weekdays, sometimes on the weekends, trying to make sure the research works out.
Yeah.
And it gets very professional as a graduate student. Even the academic part of things get very professional. How you study, because at this point it's no longer about grades, it's about understanding stuff. If i'm a grad student as a genetics major, like it's not like I have to study because I need grades. I have to study because I need to understand how genetics work. So
Right.
it's very different in that regards. And you have a lot of less friends than you would do as an undergrad.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
and yes, and you get a lot less free time, like I said. And what was one more thing that I wanted to add? I forgot. Never mind.
No, yeah, I mean, what was I gonna say? I forgot. Oh my God, wait. What was that you said before?
A
Oh
lot
yeah,
less free
I got
time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because you're doing PhD, right? It's not a small thing. So definitely a lot more work and hard work, a lot of commitment.
Mhm.
Less free time, less social life, but I feel like you manage the social life part pretty well. You seem like a
So
very
the thing is, like,
person.
even though I go to Clemson, I don't actually go to Clemson main campus. We have a center for human genetics focused faculties and their students. So in this lab, we only work with human disorders or, cancer, all that stuff. And it's just a lab with 5 faculties, their students, some technicians, like 25 people. So social life is not as great as it would be if you were in main campus, because there are a lot of different people you can meet at an actual college campus. So but we do have a pretty strong, like, close-knit community within our facility itself. So in terms of social life, I personally don't have a lot of options when it comes to making friends. Like, either be friends with those people or you don't have friends, kind of situation. So it's also important to choose what kind of friends you want to make as a grad student, because if you have a friend who likes to get drunk on a Thursday night or Wednesday night, that's not going to work for you as a grad student, especially if you're friends with them, very close friends with them. So it's important to choose like-minded individuals who are driven the same way as you are, especially as a grad student. It doesn't really matter as an undergrad, because you're still exploring, learning things.
Yeah, for sure. You have to get more serious in your grad school. It's not like
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so I'd say, like, what are your plans after graduation? I mean, it's a lot to ask because there's like a lot of more years. You just started your PhD, but if you have a rough idea, just so that the audience know if they pursue a certain path, like what where
Like I said, I wanted to be a doctor growing up, right? But here we are. Still gonna be a doctor, a different kind. Let's just say that. But that being said, I don't really know what I want to do. I'm leaning more towards going into academia and And the idea of having my own lab, being able to do independent research, what I love, what I like to do, that intrigues me definitely. So that's what I'm leaning towards. So probably after graduation, I would do postdoc somewhere for at least 2 or 3 years. And by that time, if I'm like, I hate academia, I don't want to be here, maybe I'll go into some industry jobs. But from how things are looking right now, I'll probably do 2 or 3 years of postdoc in one lab, maybe 2 or 3 years in another lab, and then maybe have my own lab
Become a professor
someday.
right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's like I have not interviewed anyone here who wants to become a professor. So if anyone wants to become a professor on LinkedIn, that's pretty awesome. Like yeah, I don't see myself going into academia. So I kind of like the kind of how the clarity that you have that, you know, this is what I want to do. So that's really nice. But yeah, so I guess the last question I have, because we're running out of time, it's been over an hour and I don't want to waste
Sure.
another minute of your time. So what are the 3 top things that you think are important to the people from Nepal who are coming here in United States? Like 3 things. If senior Bibhu wanted to, you know, give some information or like knowledge to a junior one who, let's say, just graduated high school, like what would the top 3 advice be?
Ask yourself what you want to do. That's very important because, you know, all these people will tell you, you can be a doctor, you can be an engineer, you can be, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's you who's going to work for it. It's you who has to put in the time and effort into being that person who all these people are asking you to be, you know. So ask yourself whether or not that person is really who you want to become. That'll be one. Other one would be, you know, studies don't really matter. Ask yourself if you actually want to study. No, I mean, studies matter when it comes to whether or not you like studying. If you like studying, it does matter. But like since very small, we've been like, if I count the years I've been in school, like I've been in school for over 20 years, and no one has ever told me why I should study. They just tell me to study. Teachers, my fellow classmates, you know, the principal running the school, or whoever it is, you know, they just tell you to study. So what I'm telling you is like, you don't have to study if you don't want to study. There are a lot of other things that you can do without studying. And it's important to realize that studying is not everything, how it's portrayed in the society and in the school. Like, you don't have to study. You can do other things without studying. That would be my second one. Third one would be like, have fun, make friends, go out. It's important to have a social life because that really shapes who you become. So have a social life, have fun, go to different places. Yeah, those would be 3 of my suggestions to my junior self.
Yeah, well,
and all the other people watching who are like confused or in the process, that would be my suggestion. Yes.
right, for sure. I like the third one the most. Have fun. It's easy to take things seriously, you know, when you are.
Yes, time goes by very fast. Time goes by very fast. So have fun while you still can. You know, all these older people would tell me that I've grown up. I was like,
I know.
Whatever, you know.
I know, we're like, you're that old people. Yeah, right here.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if you're young, have fun.
definitely. Undergrad was probably like the best 4 years of my life.
True.
And yeah, before that, I just remember studying. I don't remember doing anything. No activities that I used to take part in, apart from dancing, because everyone dances. Not a big deal. But yeah, definitely.
Not everyone. I don't dance. I watch you dance on TikTok sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like, this was super helpful. And as a genetics PhD, I think that's a really interesting field too. You're doing some like really good job. Like, I will probably make a lot
I
of.
like to think I am. And to any of the viewers, if you're interested in genetics, or biology in general, if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me.
Oh.
My Facebook, Instagram, or my Twitter.
I'll drop his LinkedIn in the description too, if you're interested in reaching out,
Yes, LinkedIn too, but except I don't really use LinkedIn
now that you've
too
already
much.
gone.
But yeah, feel free. I have LinkedIn. I have the notifications on, so if you reach out to me, I'll know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this interview, Bibhu. Thank you so much for giving your time.
Thank you for having me.
Busy Sunday. You have a good work week, coming week.
Thank you. I wish you the same, Didi. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See ya.
Yeah, peace.